You don't have to be a customer experience expert to understand customer experience issues. You just need to be a customer.
People so much of the time are focusing on the marketing aspect. How many problems do we take away versus how many do we create?
I couldn't believe it. I was on a couple of apps this morning. I couldn't find, where do I ask a question? Where do I go for help? Don't hide away from letting customers ask you a question. If it's a potential customer, if they can't get their answer, they won't buy from you.
AI in general without data and without context is a waste of time, and implemented wrong, it's going to do more harm than good.
Gen AI, to me, should not be considered a self-service solution, which is what most people want. It can replace people. It should be seen as a concierge solution.
Alex Mead is a global leader in customer experience transformation with over 20 years of expertise, renowned for driving AI-powered service innovations and championing epic experiences, easy, personalized, intuitive, and contextual. Alex has redefined how companies engage with customers. Currently with a CX BPO startup in the Middle East, Alex has implemented award-winning digital and social media contact solutions. Join us for our conversation with Alex Mead.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Alex. It's great to have you on. Been a long time coming, and it's good to finally have you on.
Pleasure to catch up with you after a few aborted attempts, all my fault.
No, absolutely no issues whatsoever. It's good to be here and good to catch up. So, for those that may not know your background in CX and kind of what you've done to date, give us a bit of a background and a brief overview.
Okay, a very potted history. I studied computer systems at university and went to Canada and then came back to the UK. And the first job I took was as a customer service agent in a water utility company. And that's how I fell into this crazy career, which is now called CX. You could call it customer service, customer care, customer support. And since that time, I've worked across pretty much every industry sector. I've worked in over 30 countries, and I'm now mostly the guy that runs customer service experience in organizations. So that's what I'm still doing, and I've done it my whole career. I'd much rather be a rock star or professional football player, but that's not the path I chose.
Very, very good. I like it. Yeah, you've had extensive experience in the CX space, and I know you put out some great content around it as well. So I want to jump in, just probably diving straight into it and get your understanding around how you define kind of brand experience versus the customer service experience, because I know sometimes some people can get that confused and also just blend it all together.
Yeah, for me, it's highly ironic that the growth of this phrase customer experience about 15 years ago has ruined customer experience. It's so ironic because 15, maybe 20 years ago, you would have a customer service team, you would have a sales and marketing team, you'd have operations, fulfillment, etc. But this phrase customer experience somehow merged marketing and customer service. There was this growth of the chief experience officer role, the chief customer officer role, nearly always filled by marketing people. So to me,
Yeah.
I never ever measure customer experience as a thing to do. It's an outcome of two distinctly different things. And those things are brand and marketing experience. So the physical look of the product, the advertising, the campaigns, the personalized offers you get, everything about the touch and feel and the way companies try and persuade you to like their brand and their products. The other aspect is the customer service experience. And the reason why a lot of people don't understand that is customer service experience is every life cycle stage. It's not customer support. So
Yeah.
before you've even thought about buying something, you may have a question about the flight or the restaurant or the physical device you want to buy. That's customer service experience. And then when you start to think about making the transaction, that's customer service experience. And then when you've made the transaction and you have questions about when's the delivery coming or can I change it, that's customer service experience. And then finally, I've received or I am in the process of receiving the service, that's customer service experience. So by merging CSX is what I call customer service experience with brand and marketing experience, we now have lost complete track of the basics of great customer service experience. So most channels frustrate the hell out of us. There's badly designed chatbots, there's call center queues from hell, all of which should have been eradicated a decade ago.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and 100% on the marketing thing. And I think a lot of people there's a fair bit of probably controversial, but there's a fair bit of vanity, right, in the customer or CX stuff of like, it's just like all big words and everything else. Like there's no real substance to it. And people so much of the time are focusing, as you say, like on the marketing aspect of it. But if you boil it down, simplify it down to the nuts and bolts, if that's the way we want to put it, it's like, okay, how happy are the customers, right? What are they actually feeling when we're delivering something? How easy is it to work with us if they've got a problem? How easy is it to resolve it, right? And not being cliche on that, but I guess how easy are we to deal with, right? How many problems do we take away versus how many do we create? And it's all great to have an awesome brand and a nice feel, which is, it's great, don't get me wrong, like it's important, but at the end of the day, it's like, what is the actual experience at the end of the day for that person?
And then for me, it's astonishing. Actually, you don't have to be a customer experience expert to understand customer experience issues. You just need to be a customer. And in the last 2 days alone, I've looked at a retailer website and a travel website and an app with wanting to book a flight, book a hotel, or book a physical order something. I've given up on 3 occasions. It's not easy enough for me to find the delivery timescales or the check-in time. So bad customer experience actually stops people buying in the first place. So it's such a no-brainer to get back to focusing on CSX and splitting this CX back into the 2 component parts.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's super important. And I think obviously not only for just your once-off transactions, which is what you're talking about, but that's obviously a massive impact. But then what is it that is so regular that makes people just keep coming back and even stick with the brand? I know for myself, I've used Wise, and to be honest, they're getting a lot of hate. I've seen recently on LinkedIn of for some people that have had some issues with them, but we've had issues with them, not a lot, but we've had some, and they've been resolved within, honestly, incredible support. And just their product, very rarely do I even have issues that I can't solve myself, and secondly, it just works. And that to me, honestly, is one of the better products I have seen from it plays in the B2C space, or basically the consumers at a personal level with personal banking, but they also now obviously they've massively upped their business offering, and I used them from when they were TransferWise, right? And they've moved through now into Wise, and I actually want to have some of their team on here to discuss it. I think they're a brilliant product, and I don't really understand the hate they're getting at the moment, but the reason I've brought them up is, like, that is an example, in my opinion, of, to me, that comes to mind. It's just like, I don't have to think about it. They actually actively take away problems that I have to worry about when traveling or working internationally with teams and funds and that kind of thing. And when I think of it, it's just like, oh, I know I can do it. Like, I can do it with Wise. I don't have to worry about it. And if I do have a problem, one of their examples is, if I can't self-serve it or figure it out myself, I've used their contact center before, and have you used the product before? Just before I get into it?
Yeah, I've used it. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Had an issue. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. But basically, when I have had an issue, it's only been a couple of times, but I can either chat with them, which their chat is immediate responsive, or I can get them to call me as well. And they basically have got my number, so all I have to do is click call, and I'm not kidding you, within 1 or 2 seconds, the phone rings.
Perfect. Yeah. Epic. You're talking about epic experience, which we'll talk about. Sure.
Absolutely. We will. We'll get into that. But I guess I see a lot of this coming into the B2B space, right? And consumers' experiences are at a B2C level, but there's still, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of companies in that space that aren't doing well as well. But let's focus on the B2B space. So what are your comments, experience on that? I know you've worked a fair bit in the B2B space. I'd love to get you to unpack that and how important it is in the space and the level of expectation that's already there.
Well, first of all, I think it's a myth to still cling on to the misconception that B2B service experiences don't need to be as good as B2C. 100%. People still hang on to that. And there's so many B2B companies, even SaaS companies, their support page has an email address. Email. So you need to give the live chat, the messenger, the callback, the call, the same customer service experiences to B2B as you do to B2C. But clearly there are, the difference comes to the personalization. So that I would think with B2B, you should be more intuitive than you potentially could be with B2C. You should have a very good idea why a B2B client is likely to be reaching out to you. If it's a SaaS company, you can see what they've been doing with your software, whether they've been using it or not. If it's a B2B company that is having a large crane delivered, I actually work for a company that delivered cranes, massive 200-foot pieces of equipment. And we can see, the crane is not there. It should have been there 2 hours ago. So you've got to give these customers portals. And B2B usually have multiple interactions, don't they? It'll rarely be a one-to-one. They may have 500 or even 50,000 interactions. So you need to give them the ability to see the status of every one of those in a personalized portal. And then if they want to ask a question, it's got to be epic and easy. I want to ask a question about this particular item, and don't ask me any information about it that you should already know.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you mentioned portals there, but like obviously a big part of this is, okay, what's your experience in actual selling B2B? And I do see there's obviously a different sales cycle with B2C typically, and where we work is more in your traditional industries like manufacturing, wholesale and distribution, and kind of your industrial services. And so once a contract has been won, or once a customer's been won, it's typically like, okay, we now work with this client. Now we've just got to service them. And now that's, okay, as part of that sales pitch, if that's the way you want to put it, I think you should be selling your customer experience and the technology that you have to enable that. Absolutely. But most importantly, there's so much opportunity for the businesses with those repeat transactions and those repeat contracts, etc., where not only is there an opportunity for efficiency gains, which is brilliant, but you can do that at the same time as making things much more incredible and easy for your customers. And I totally agree with you to say that there's this myth about B2B and B2C. It's just like, it's customer experience first and foremost. And even further than that, I totally agree with you. I think there's more opportunity for B2B to actually make it better because they know more and it's repeatable. So there shouldn't be any excuse, right?
Let me go back to that. To the company I worked for, a company, a big business services company that had 60,000 plus employees across the globe, had several business units. We would hire out MUPs, mobile elevated working platforms. They could be small cherry pickers, big, small, and we would hire them out for typically a couple of days up to 12 weeks. And so we wanted repeat business. So the process I inherited, we had NPS, and the NPS would literally say, would you recommend us to a friend? Dude, I'm not going to recommend a cherry picker to any of my friends. I'm not going to recommend a crane to my friend. So, and none of them had personalized portals. And everyone who came to the website who wanted to get everything started with a quotation. Like most of these B2B things, there's margins, you agree with clients. And so we'd ask them to sign in, and then we'd behind the scenes know their margin. And we treated every one of our B2B clients exactly the same. So because of that, we were making people who didn't know what they want go through so many steps. It was terrible. Do you want a 12-foot, 26-ton one, or do you want a 40? They didn't know what they just know the job they wanted to achieve. So I completely re-engineered that. The very first thing you'd get when you came to the website or the portal, are you an expert? Do you know the machinery you want? Or do you want us to help guide you with advice? And that's first split increased the conversion rate for those needing advice by 20% and the experts by 30%. They could just quickly type in the machine number. So they were able to hire with that very first simple split. But then obviously, if someone's ordered a big piece of machinery, there's then the delivery experience. So that was all measured. Okay, you're going to have a 200-foot piece of huge machinery delivered to a building site in a city center 12 p.m. tomorrow, or there's a whole bunch of, we don't want that crane to turn up at the building site and not know exactly where it needs to be delivered, who at the site is the person we interact with. But then that was, again, the start of a process. But because we built the app, we were then able to add in the service support stuff. So, hey, the machine doesn't work like it should. You could do that through the app. So we were able to sell technical support. And then everyone who used this machinery needed to be accredited and trained. So we sold that through the app. Upload your PAF license so we can see you are accredited. Otherwise, we won't give you the code to start the engine. And all of this stuff came through this portal. And we asked, I binned the would you recommend us to a friend and changed that to about 5 questions, which we didn't ask until the hiring period had been completed and we'd collected the machinery back. And we would ask, how happy were you with the ordering process? How happy were you with the delivery? How happy were you with the state and quality of the machine? How happy were you with the understanding of how to use it? How happy were you with the support? We only asked you the support if you'd actually requested support. So we knew if you requested. And then how happy were you with the invoicing? Because the biggest complaint was, I don't understand the invoice. So those 6 or 7 questions, they gave us a 1 to 10 answer. But then we knew they've given us an average of 7, but they're actually really unhappy with the condition that the machine arrived in. So someone now needs to go back to that customer and make sure they never get another machine delivered that isn't spotless. And if someone was unhappy with the invoicing, what is it you don't understand about the invoice? So we created this complete personalized set of experiences, from ordering to having training to even accessories, high vis, everything. Everything was through this portal. So we upsold things beyond belief, but because of the ease and the personalization in these portals, the biggest thing was the customer retention. Typically, customers would churn between 30 to 40% to a competitor each year. A year after this, less than 5% of our competitors, our customers churned. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it lines up with our experience of working on these kind of projects as well. Like, it's just there's so much opportunity there, and like some businesses literally haven't even started any initiative in that direction whatsoever, and others are streets ahead. And when we've got things like AI, developing as fast as they are, I think it's super important. Like, there's going to get to the point where even now there's people that say AI are going to have no impact and it's overhyped, and there's people that say that it's going to take everyone's jobs away, right? I think there's some in the middle, right, as with most things. But at the end of the day, if you're not at least looking at, even from a B2B perspective, even if you are, let's say, a wholesaler, right, if you've got a portal, or maybe you don't even have a portal, right, but okay, then you're in a really bad spot. But then the next thing is, okay, if you've got one, how are we leveraging this and delivering a better experience? How do we make it so we build a chatbot that everyone says, oh, they're just a generic chatbot, but don't make it bad. Make it actually good. Get it so every single bit of information, orders, deliveries, you can just ask it and say, okay, what about this? What about that? Can I order this? Or where's this at? And suddenly there's that experience that none of your competitors are offering in your industry. You're the leading person in it. And it is possible. It's not that it's not possible. And I think the biggest thing is, it's not only is it possible from now to be innovative, okay, that's great, but in 5 years' time, 3 years' time, it's going to be expected, right? And so if you're that far behind already, I think there's some significant issues there, and so, something that needs to be looked at. And one of the things we come up against, I guess, and see a fair bit is, I don't know, the doubt, I guess, that is there, and also overcoming kind of the objections to, like, oh, well, we want the sales team to be doing this, or, we don't want to do that because, we might lose some customers or something like that. And I think a lot of it, to be fair, comes from bad implementations or bad experiments previously, or bad experiences. But the challenge I put back on people is to go, okay, how do you make it so it's not bad? Like, okay, if we could do anything, how would we make it great? And then the key part of that, I feel that people overlook, and want to get your thoughts on this, is that people don't even talk to the customers. So they sit down in a boardroom, they all talk about this great idea and how they're going to do this and everything else, but no one actually thinks that, okay, let's just go and do a deep dive with all of our customers and find out how we can actually make it better.
I've got a really good example for that. So it was B2C, B2B and B2B2C, a golf travel company. And I'm really proud of them. I worked for them 8-9 years ago now. And when I joined, they had a website, they had a phone number, and they had an email address. And you could phone up and request. And what they sold is golf holidays. They wouldn't just sell the golf holidays. It could be the most high-value holiday from UK travelers want to go and play Pebble Beach, so the bucket list thing. They want to fly BA first class. They want to do, they want to have caddies, clubs, everything arranged. They want to eat in a fine restaurant. They want to stay in a nice hotel. We would offer all aspects of that. But the journey when I joined was email. So we were literally, the customers either spend an hour on the phone or send an email. We would email them a reply with a bunch of quotes. We didn't know if they opened the email. We didn't know if they bothered to reply. If they didn't bother to reply to the email, we would maybe make 2 or 3 phone calls to try and follow up, and the conversion rate was shocking. So, and this was 10 years ago. So, Again, I came up with a vision. Okay, what do our customers want when they're booking these golf travel? To your point, what do customers want? Don't just do it behind the scenes. And we looked at first of all, before you ask customers what they want, have some insight as to what you think they want. Don't just start
Yeah,
with a
100%.
paper, otherwise you're an idiot. So we knew, okay, first of all, they want to know the quality of the golf course. They want to know the quality of the hotel. They want to know, is there food? Is there, how are they going to get there? Is it a plane? Is it a train? Is it a car hire? They want to know, some of them aren't the best golfers. Is it, of course, low handicappers or high handicap? But
Yep.
they also want to, that's the sort of functional, transactional things. But then we realized by literally going to golf events with our customers, the biggest thing they did, because golf break, you don't go on a golf break by yourself. You go with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It could be 2 people, it could be 200 people. They want to be able to banter about it. They like the competitive element, and they want to be able to gamify things. So
Yeah.
we created the app in which they could look at their quotations. So we didn't email you a quotation. We emailed you a link. You'd open in your app to see your quotation. We can see you've seen the quotation. The customer could then easily ask a question about, hey, can we upgrade the hotel rooms through the app? So that side of things transformed immeasurably. But more importantly, we built a social area where each potential golfer or person going on the trip could talk to each other socially within our app. And then they could take photographs when they're on the 18th, sinking the putt, and post it on the app. And we realized to them the glue was the social aspect of the entire experience, rather than, because the model when we joined was there was a person called the organizer or the booker. We only took their details in our CRM system. But by creating this portal approach, the booker would then share the booking with all the other golfers who would then also all register. And we then had the details of 8 people rather than 1. And we could upsell or sell to them as well. But we realized that by just thinking about it. Why do they do this? For the competitive element and the fun. And we built this I've seen some companies do now social interaction within an app, and it was just great fun to see.
Yeah, no, it's a great story, and I guess that the learning is like get in there. Obviously, as you said, thrash it out yourselves. That's great, but you've got to consult the customer. You've got to look at it from the customer's perspective, and I think there's 2 elements to it. Well, if you're being genuinely innovative, you're not only looking at and going to customers saying, what do you want, or saying, what do you want? It's like going, okay, we've had this idea that no one else has thought of. What do you consider? Like, is that? And they go, wow, like if you can do that, that's incredible, right? It's like, it's the what if scenario. How could we do this? Not, oh, we can't do that. That's too hard. It's like, how do we do it? Right. And from a B2B context, the way I try and get people to think about this to start with is to go, okay, how could you double your revenue without adding more individuals or overheads, or you're increasing your team size or whatever. Now, it's not always practical, but it gets you thinking like, okay, well, how would we do that? Immediately you come back to, okay, well, we need better systems.
Actually, and just on that last point, so golf breaks we sold to the B2C, but clearly we had hotels, we had golf clubs, we had airlines, part of our infrastructure. So the hotel would want to know the rooming list. There's 20 people showing up tomorrow.
Yeah.
How many of them in single rooms? Who's sharing a room together? And then the golf club would maybe that you book 10 tee times, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Which 4 are playing each tee time? So again, they all work through the same portal, they had different needs, but exactly the same principle. And how many of them have ordered a buggy? How many have ordered a caddy? And if they haven't, maybe we can incentivize them with some marketing offers before they even get here. So it was B2B to C. It was all the same set of challenges.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think there's obviously some unique challenges, I guess, with the B2B space. I do say that there should be no level of expectation on different, but there are some unique challenges there of delivering that, where it is in traditional industries. I guess the challenges are more for the fact that there are probably different issues with when you've got, like, when you're selling to, not necessarily the golf one, but when you're selling to larger chains and that kind of thing, with your wholesaling tools or something like that there, or your wholesaling suppliers, or you're a manufacturer. If you're working with larger chains, they may be saying, oh, we want EDI, so we can directly kind of push purchase orders through to your system and that kind of thing. Absolutely. But then there's other opportunities for innovation. How do you help them with reporting, if that makes sense? How do you get better data? So as you talk about these cross sells, these upsells, but most importantly, I feel oftentimes it's overcomplicated. And what I mean by that there is people don't just focus on how do we just make it as easy as possible to deal with us,
Yeah.
right? It's like, how do we go and build this new AI feature, or we do this or we do that, rather than just going, what is going to make it as easy as possible to deal with us? And most people truly, they tell you, and I've met teams and and individuals on teams and stuff, and you start talking to them and they'll be like, yeah, no, we're great, we're doing awesome, all of this, and our customers love it. And I say, oh, okay, what do they actually say about it? Like, and they don't have an answer to it, right? Or they just say, yeah, they've said it's fine. And so there's no, I call it depth, right? Like no depth of genuinely understanding and getting that detailed research. And I do sympathize. It can be difficult for customers to open up
Absolutely. Yeah,
very candidly with, especially directly with the company themselves. And I know just through our experience, we've had people tell us in the B2B space that they'd spend kind of 2 to 4 times what they are annually. These are bigger customers of these customers saying, yeah, we'll spend kind of double to quadruple the amount annually if they did this, and this, right? They've never recognized that, right? They've never heard that.
I was going to say the other thing is, as well as asking customers, just look at what customers do, their behaviors.
Yeah.
So how many people go to a website or an app or even walk into a store and leave without buying? So what was it? What was the trigger point? Obviously, it's much easier to do that with a website or an app. What did they look at? The basics are missed by so many companies. And that to me is where a brand and marketing experience leader and a customer service experience leader need to work in harmony. Did they leave the website because the brand and marketing collateral was bad, or because the information onto how to order something was bad? And that's a customer service experience issue, but you have to be completely aligned, brand and marketing and customer service experience. And as well as the point I made earlier that I abandoned transactions as a consumer, there's some massive B2B opportunities being missed. And you have to look at, okay, what's their behavior? But if they're asking a question of a chatbot, or they're speaking to an agent, or they're sending an email, what are the questions they are asking? And it's amazing how often even one of the other crazes that started probably 15, 20 years ago was the CSAT, the VOC, MPS. And people have stopped looking at what customers are saying to them in day-to-day business and just relied on surveys. And if you think about surveys, if a customer does not transact with you, you won't send them a survey. It's crazy. And so you can have a conversion rate of 20%. Every customer that buys from you, you'll send them an MPS or CSAT. That's only 1 in 5. What about the 80% that didn't buy from you? You won't even bother to send them a survey because they're not on your system because they didn't buy. It's so lazy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And also I think even further to that, surveys, if you're just relying on survey data, like how many people respond to a survey? I just know through my own actions that honestly, like out of anything, as in very few respond. And they either respond, obviously, either if it's an amazing experience, then they might respond, and vice versa. If it's a terribly negative experience, it's they may respond as well. And I think really it's not to say surveys are bad because you do them, they have their place. That's not my point. But at the end of the day is that you've got to be using a range of these methods. You've got to be, it's different for every business, but it's like, how do you get that level of understanding? And I think I actually wrote a LinkedIn post about this the other day, but there is, to me, it's more concerning the silent churn, right? Because mostly you don't hear about it, right? Yeah. Mostly you don't know about it. And to be quite frank, 99% of businesses don't care and aren't asking about it, which means that it's like, well, we don't know. It's like, oh, our business has been great. We're growing and everything else. It's like, okay, how much more could you be growing? Right? How much more could you be doing here on this front, rather than just, I guess, churning and going, okay, we're replacing a lot of that churn when it could be basically all growth to a degree. Obviously, there's natural churn, but I guess you've got to have those different touch points.
And actually, I've got another B2B scenario where they said the customer retention rate was positive 5%. That was completely wrong. Actually, they lost 40% of customers each year. They've acquired 45% of new customers. So their retention rate was 60%. Because 40% of the customers left every year, and they left to a competitor, then they came back again. It was a cycle. So by us becoming a unique customer experience provider, that went down to less than 10% of retention loss.
Yeah, wow. Well, we've discussed a bit about Epic, so give us a bit of a background on that.
So yeah, I first came up with this 2010, I think, when I was working for a big logistics company, and I said every interaction needs to be easy, but to be easy, it needs to be personalized, intuitive, and contextual. So what does easy mean? That even now, I couldn't believe it. I was on a couple of apps this morning, one an entertainment app, one a financial services app, and I couldn't find where do I ask a question, where do I go for help. I had to scroll to the bottom of a web page on a laptop and a mobile phone. I scrolled to the bottom of a whole bunch of pages on the laptop and I found help, clicked on that, and it gave me an email address. That's not what I want to answer now. And on the app, I couldn't find any way to chat. So the first part of easy, don't hide away from letting customers ask you a question, because they're customers who are just going to walk elsewhere. If it's an existing customer, they won't do business with you again. If it's a potential customer, if they can't get their answer, they won't buy from you. So I'm astonished still that the number of companies that make it just help should be the most obvious thing to go. And the way I like to do that on an app is have an always floating avatar, tiny little thing, and wherever it is on the page is obvious. That's where you can click to get help. So, but then that's where the context comes in. If I'm looking at a page on an app or a website for 5 minutes, I've made 7 or 8 page clicks, then I click that help icon, I'm almost definitely going to need help about the thing I've been interacting with for the last 5 minutes. So don't say, what's your name? What's your order number? How can I help you? You should intuit why they are likely to need help. So the easy part is just make it easy to know where to get the help. Then personalize. If you have a portal or you have a website or whatever, sign in, show a customer their orders, their deliveries, their complaints, even their quotations. Show them their personal activities or actions with the brand. And then if they want to ask a question, the help should be embedded into those items as well. You shouldn't have to leave that to go to a help and support page. So I'm looking at a flight. I've got 3 flights. I'm looking at a flight in 2 weeks' time. I want help about that flight. I should be able to click on help on the page that shows me that flight. And then clearly you can upload the most obvious self-help answers, but you don't want static FAQs. So if a customer clicks that help icon, open a natural language chatbot, one where you can speak or type into. And we've actually launched this for one of our own clients 3 months ago. It's out there. So you can speak your question. Hey, how much is it to change my flight from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.? And by the way, can I upgrade to business class? Can you give me, you should be able to just naturally speak that. So that's easy and personalized. But then if you think about the customer service situation, imagine you're in the car and you're flying from London Heathrow to Las Vegas, and you open your app and the flight is about to close in 20 minutes. We can see from the GPS you're an hour away from the airport. Oh, you're screwed. You're not making that flight. So when you reach out to us, intuitive, you know that customer is going to be reaching out to you because they're going to miss that flight. And then contextual is, how important is this customer to us? Is it a first class frequent flyer? And are they flying to Las Vegas for a very important meeting or reason? Or is it an economy flyer who we can put them on a flight 4 hours later? So none of those things are really considered by any company. And I thought of that 10 years ago with a logistics company. The most common thing is you don't order a parcel, you order a thing. The parcel is just a mechanism. And we delivered over 500,000 parcels in peak a day. And I wanted it to be easy for the customer to ask for help, so they could go to our website or app. And we'd ask them, first question, are you sending a parcel? So you're the B2B, or are you receiving a parcel? You're the B2C. If you click the B2B, we opened your portal, and we even delivered for Amazon. You could see your thousands of parcels, the status of them in real time. If you're B2C, you're probably only getting 1 or 2 deliveries at the most. You could see your delivery, but then you could ask a question or interact with it. And we would ask you a question. We had like a drop-down menu before we then allowed you free text. And it would say, is your question about the tracking information? Is your question about changing delivery times? Is your question about collecting from a depot? And if they click their information, their question was about, or are you contacting us because you think something has gone wrong? We put that as a clear category. You click on that, and then we give the customer a clear option to say, you say you tried to deliver, but I was in all day and nobody came. I put that as a clear category. The marketing director, I had to fight hell on earth to get him to agree that. Or another one, you say you've delivered my parcel, but I can't find it. The most 2 common customer contact reasons. And we built it so if a customer had clicked, you say you tried to deliver hours in, but nobody came, because we'd taken the effort to really embed that into our infrastructure, we could see, did the driver actually go to that address? Let's look at their GPS. Let's look at their route. And if it was a context of a very important delivery, we would get the depot to phone that driver and say, you'd better go back and make that delivery, because it's high value or it's a high profile person, blah, blah, blah. So Epic is about make it easy to know just how to find help. Personalize it, show the customer the stuff you already know about them. Don't ask them for order numbers, show them their orders. Intuitive is you should have a good idea why they're likely to be reaching out based on their transactional history with you and context. Is it really urgent right now? Or is it something that can wait? Or is it high value or low value? And that Epic thing, to me, it was relevant 14 years ago. Now it's even more relevant. And I still can't believe the number of companies that still do things based on an IVR. You press a number, are you booking, new booking? And they will treat everyone based on the longest in the queue, rather than the most important context. So it's to me, it's my holy grail. And I know a question you may ask later is, what would be my legacy? Epic is my legacy to CX.
Yeah, no, it's great, I think. And one thing I challenge businesses on, or anyone that I talk to and work with as well, which is totally agree with all your points there as well. But as part of that intuitive thing, it's like, how do we make it so they don't have to take an action, or they don't have a problem in the first place? Like, how do we prevent something, or how do we, like, I'll give a practical example for those listening out there. Like, you may say, oh yeah, we've released this new portal and we've done all this stuff, which is great. You've got to log in and you can see it all. Great. That's totally understandable. But there's certain things in there that you should be sending a notification or an SMS or an email, whatever it is, so they don't have to log in, right, to see it, right? How do you make it so they don't have to do anything? You just do it. It's easy. They see it and it's like, oh, great. I don't even need to do anything with that. I just know that it's been sorted or it's been handled. And I think we're bordering into the area of user experience there. But like, the point of it is that it's like, how do we take away those problems? How do we just make it easy? How do we then prevent the problems from happening, right? As you say, like with that flight, how can we be mature enough to know, okay, we're already predicting what you're going to ask, or we're already predicting, we know that this is most likely the problem. Yeah. And especially with companies that got a lot of data, right? Like, there is so much there that you can predict off. I guess there's so much historical, and at the end of the day, mostly those situations are going to, with that amount of data, you're going to have predictions on what you know is going to be next, or at least in the majority of cases. And so I'm just challenging people, pushing people to say, hey, don't think about, okay, great, we can put it on the portal and we make them log in, whatever. Is that truly easy? Is that how they want to do it? Are you meeting them where they want to be met, kind of thing? How do you take those problems away, and how do you meet them where they want to be met and prevent the problems as well? Not just about taking them away, but preventing them. And not only problems, but just like, it's like, you know what I want to do next, and I don't have to think about it. You're not making me think.
So the example I was going to give is that in the world of corporate travel and business travel, there are companies called TMCs, travel management companies. So a big organization, Intel and IBM and Accenture, all their employees will make their travel bookings through a TMC typically. Yeah. So we onto the intuitive and contextual stuff, the proactive. You could be on a flight that took off 3 hours late. You're up several thousand kilometers in the air, and you're going to miss your connection. So we don't want you to have to land in a foreign country and phone us to find out what the options are. So we had a team of people that would actually automatically schedule the next available flight based on what we knew about that passenger. So if they had on-flight Wi-Fi, we'd push them the notification. At the very least, when they landed at their destination, they would get an SMS saying, we know you've missed your connection, but don't worry, here's the next available flight for you. And we booked them on it, but is that okay with you? If it wasn't, they'd click an N and they'd speak to an agent, but 99% of the time, that was fine. But the second aspect we had for the B2B aspect is each of these corporates had an owner of the software, and we had a thing called duty of care. How do we know Julian has arrived in Afghanistan, Kabul, or whatever? And so the GPS would automatically send a note to the organizer. Don't worry, Julian's there. He's just checked into his hotel. He's all good. So all of that is just proactive stuff that takes the pain and stress away from people. The person who's in the air thinking, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm going to miss my next flight. don't worry, we've booked you on this one. Or the person, has Julian made it to his destination? I don't know. And all that stuff is about just being intuitive and contextual.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with it. And I just, yeah, challenging people to think like, how do you meet them where they want to be met? How do you predict the next move, I guess, and make it so it's just so easy. You don't have to worry about it. You know, if there is a problem, you know, it's going to be sorted. It's not going to be a hassle. And that's so much of the, I guess, the anxiety of people when they're dealing with this kind of stuff is like, oh, what happens if something goes wrong, right? Like, well, what's going to happen? And so it's like, how do you take that away? How do
It's
you,
anxiety. You're exactly right. Yeah. It's
yeah,
stress.
and how do you remove that? And that's what makes people want to keep coming back. That's why I still use Wires, right? There's so many other options out there as well now and others, but it's just like, to me, none of them make it easier. None of them make it better. I've obviously had that history as well, which is great. But because I started a long time ago, that's always been my experience with it. It's just always been easy. And when there has been a problem, it's been sorted out, right? And the products continue to improve. And I guess that's part of a SaaS thing. And I know they're just constantly working on things and constantly working on the experience. But I guess that's the importance of focusing on that. The final thing I wanted to touch off on, just, you know, to go back and forth a bit about, was just around integrating like tech with business processes, I guess, and looking for that efficiency. We have focused a lot on the customer experience, which is super important. But I think an element that's overlooked here is it can be a two-pronged thing. You can do two things at once. You can automate a process whilst improving it. And I think a key part to this, for me at least, is that the industries that we work with, more traditional industries, and they're generally older, but at the end of the day, you've got these digital native generations coming through, and we don't want to be cliche about it, but it's a fact, and it's happening faster and faster. And expectations in older generations as well are just becoming more and more, because it's just improving faster and faster. But I guess there's 2 points to this: is you've got that expectation, but then how do we improve the experience with self-service and automate and improve the efficiency?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's all about APIs, and everyone is talking about Gen AI these days. So I'm already seeing some disastrous implementations of Gen AI. Gen AI, to me, should not be considered a self-service solution, which is what most people want. It can replace people. It should be seen as a concierge solution. So the first thing it can do is triage. A customer can speak or type in their own natural language. It can be, hey, I'm interested in a pair of Adidas trainers, size UK8, red. Can you get them to me in 2 days at my office address? What options do you have? That should be as easy as that to ask the question. But then, if you think about what some of the antiquated processes we have, you've placed oh no, damn it, I want to change the delivery address. Oh no, you've placed the order. You can't change the delivery. What do you mean I can't change the delivery address? There must be a back end process, even down to it's on the van that morning and you send me a text to say it's going to be delivered between 3 and 4 p.m. Well, that doesn't work for me. So companies need to re-engineer that's the process. That's the way it's always been. If 3 to 4 doesn't work for me, allow me to tell you where to leave it in a safe space, somewhere near to my location, so there's so many processes, and it's all about APIs. So you need to allow the Gen AI can allow the customer to tell you what they want, but it then needs to link to the CRM first. What do we know about this individual? Are they high value, low value? Are they a loyal customer or a new customer? Are they what life cycle stage are they in? Are they placing an order? Have they placed an order? Have they received an order? And then so the CRM needs to be linked to the ERP or the HCM or the POS or the GDS or whatever platform. So there's no point saying, hey, plug in Gen AI, everything will be awesome. What it needs to do is then say, okay, based on what we know about you, Alex, here's an answer we think may help. If it doesn't help, let me then choose to speak to a human being in the channel I want to. And it's amazing how you think over the last decade, people have been forced into chatbots, forced into self-service. Most customers want to help themselves. Of course they do. And then you think about there's so few companies that have multi-channel options based on the customer knowing, is this an urgent issue for me, or is it one that I'm chilled about, I can take a day or two? But they're still forced. Here's a call center phone number. I don't want to sit in a queue. It's quite a simple question I want to ask you. And I don't need to know for a couple of days. So allow them to send a message. But when they send a message, look at the data within the message. use the AI and think, can we send an auto reply to the email? Oh my God, we've deflected something that wasn't urgent without forcing a customer down a chatbot or a call center queue. But then the concierge approach from Gen AI needs to really pick out those moments of truth. Right, this is high value, this is complex, this is a customer in a situation that either we're going to lose a big sale or we're going to really not be able to help them. And that's when the Gen AI needs to just say, okay, decision made, this should go to a human being. And it should go to a human being as a specialist on this. And the customer has chosen they want a callback, as you said, with Wise, or they want to send a message, or they want to do chat. And then when the agent talks to that customer, they're immediately presented with a summary of everything about that customer in a snapshot. It's not a, oh, how can I help you? You should never say, how can I help you? I know why you're contacting me now. Here, and then the next best action, which Gen AI can push to the agent, is say this to the customer, offer the customer these options. So the agent is just focused on giving a really good solution, nothing else. And then when they finish speaking to the customer, the Gen AI can automatically summarize the entire conversation in a case. They don't have to do call wrap up. So that to me is how technology should be applied. And I'm seeing so few companies think about it still that way. They think Gen AI is the latest thing you can just plug in. No, you have to think of all those business processes, come up with a workflow for each one, but then not generic workflow. Then look at your customer personas, your customer situations, your customer value, and your customer context. So it's not easy to crack Gen AI. It's a lovely thing, but you have to fix all the things underneath it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think even outside of Gen AI, like especially in more traditional industries, they're not even get the basics down. For example, you've still got to ring up and place orders via sales, or you got to email them, or you've got to ring up to get your credit limit, or pay an account, or pay an invoice, or whatever. There's still not even self-service at that level, which is very basic. And then absolutely agree with you. Like AI in general, without data and without context, is a waste of time, and it's essentially implemented wrong. It's going to do more harm than good. And I totally agree with you. It's not about just implementing shiny objects. It's like, what's our process? Why are we doing this? And how do we make this as easy as possible? And then once we know what the outcome is we're trying to achieve, we just work back from that and basically say, okay, well, this is where we want to go. So yeah, I think it's been a great chat. I think we've discussed a lot. We've covered a lot. We could be here for quite a while. So, but I think we've had a really good discussion and gone over a few topics. I do want to kind of get into the finale segment that I do with each guest, and I'll be interested to hear your comments on this as well. So the first question is, what's one thing you believe businesses are not paying enough attention to right now that will be critical in the next 5 years?
It is absolutely customer service experience. Like you just pointed out, so many of the basics are not in place. You should never, ever give the customer only one option to get in touch, a phone call. So I'm in Bahrain. I still have most of my bank accounts, my retailers in the UK. It cost me with my UK mobile phone provider £2.86 per minute. And I sit in call center queues for 10 minutes thinking, that's £28 just to ask a question.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what to phone you about. So the basics of customer services, which chuck away all the standard ways. Don't look at your competitors, because they all do the big banks, the big airlines, they all do things in the 1990s way. The very first thing, make it easy for a customer just to tell you what their question or need is. And that's natural language. It's been out there for 2 years. And then take the path after that. So don't say, here's a phone number, here's an email address, here's a web chat, here's a messenger. Start with, what is it you need help with? So reverse the entire, because if you think about it, you're given an option for a phone number or a chat session. You spend 10 minutes waiting for the chat to connect, or 20 minutes, and then you tell them what your question or issue is. You should be able to say what your question or issue is the very first thing, and then the path follows after that. So that's the biggest reverse engineering that needs to happen, and I really wish it would happen now.
Yeah, that's a great answer. The second one is, what legacy do you want to leave in your industry, and how do you hope your work will influence or shape the future?
So I came up with Epic, and I'm hearing a lot of people talk Epic now. It's a lot of plagiarism, but it's okay. I didn't trademark it. I think a lot of people, but also more importantly, I started talking about CSX 10, 12 years ago now. There was nobody knew what CSX was, customer service experience. And I am now seeing more and more people use the phrase CSX. So I'm pleased that people get customer experience. It isn't about journey mapping, about VOC, about taking the promotional offers. That's brand and marketing experience. CSX is a thing that, if I had my way, we would never allow anyone to say, I do customer experience. That's just like saying I do business. Now, what specifically do you do? Well, I do customer service interactions. I do brand and marketing. So the legacy I'd like to think I leave. Epic, I'm known now for Epic. People talk about Epic and Alex, so I'm pleased of that. But the legacy, I just want people to go back to the basics of customer service experience. And wherever I work, I do my darndest to deliver that. And I speak at conferences, and I hope people take away some advice from what I say.
Awesome. Very good. And then the final one is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self at the start of your career?
Oh, I've got to be more patient. I literally, I changed companies far too often in my early career. My God, you guys, why don't you get the opportunity I'm putting? I'd be a manager, a head, even a director. I'm so frustrated. You don't get how awesome we could be with our customer service. So maybe if I just slowed down and taken more time to engage stakeholders. When you're young and exuberant, you don't want to build state. You just want people to fix things. So, yeah. But to be honest, I'm the same now. If I see something that's messed up, I'm just as angry and volatile about it. So, what's very is the most common feeling I have in every role is I'm nearly always seen as the pain in the arse when it comes to board meetings or executive meetings. And people are, oh, how are you? It's great. And then, oh, it's Alex, come on there. And I like that because I'm a pain in their backside because I'm always talking about customer stuff that we can do better on.
Very good. Well, I appreciate the conversation we've had. It's been really good. I've learned a lot. And for anyone listening, you can find Alex on LinkedIn and follow his stuff there. He's got some great content, so definitely check him out. And for any other content for Pulse, you can check us out on YouTube, subscribe, comment, give us a like and share it around. There's a lot of great content. We had a lot of great guests on as well. So there's a library there that you can get stuck into. We also got some good content at our website and learning center at Intuji.com. So thanks once again, Alex. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll keep in touch.
Good talking to you in Australia. People may not know where you are. All the way to the South. Take care.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex.